Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We are presented by The Athletic. Today on the show, James Edwards is in the building. Funny story. So remember how yesterday on the show I mentioned that I would be doing a podcast with James on some Eastern Conference offseason previews. That was accurate. You know what the cool thing is? Jerami Grant got traded over the night or over this afternoon. So we have access to James, who knows better about the Detroit Pistons than anybody working in media right now. So it was perfect timing. We're going to have James come on. We're going to talk about the Jerami Grant deal. To start, he is traded to the Portland Trail Blazers in a deal that we'll talk about in a minute with that has some complex like second rounder, obligations and everything. And then we're going to talk about the Central Division. So we're going to go through Chicago. We're going to talk about what other teams did I send you? James, Indy. We got Milwaukee. We got Cleveland. We got Chicago. We got then we're going to move to the Southeast Division: Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, Orlando, and Washington. The goal here is not to do what Fred Katz and I did, where Fred and I talked about the Knicks for 30 minutes. Our goal is to talk about each of these teams outside of the Jerami Grant deal for 8 minutes or less. James, now that we've gone through all this, what's going on, buddy? How's it going?
Frazzled, I think that's the right word.
I bring that energy out of people.
Yeah, well, primarily because I'm leaving for New York Thursday morning for the draft, and I was trying to go around and get some flight sweats and stuff, while also simultaneously, as I told you, it felt like the Grant trade was coming, starting around 4:35. So working on that at the same time. I knew me and you had agreed to today after what was supposed to be earlier this week, and then rushing home in the kind of the thick of rush hour to get home and write. And yeah, so a little frazzled. I've been in summer mode, so I haven't been frazzled in a while. But hey, this is the work. This is why you do the work during the season, so you're prepared for moments like this. To any young writer out there, you do the work during the season, getting to know people, building connections, building relationships for these summer months when anything can happen. You can capitalize on these type of moments.
Well, and you had something up incredibly quickly. I was expecting, oh shit, it's going to be a 3-hour wait. James is going to, need to take some time, do a deep dive into the Jerami Grant deal. You did a pretty deep dive into the deal, and you did it in 90 minutes, which is fantastic. I was just okay, let's roll.
Yeah, this trade is, it's not there's not drama like there is when Houston makes a deal or anything. It's kind of people want to know, people were surprised at the package, the deal. So want to know why that happened, why Grant was traded, why the Pistons are doing this. You can get to that in a couple paragraphs. So my goal was to, every story, I want somebody to learn something they didn't know. So I feel like I accomplished that in this one.
So let's talk about the Jerami Grant deal first, and then we will transition into Detroit's offseason and where they go from here within that conversation, because I think that that's just going to be the easiest way to do this. Please, James, I still don't totally know what all of the second round obligations are with this trade. So
I'll pull it up.
I'm going to give you the floor. Please explain all of the details in this deal that see Jerami Grant going from Detroit to Portland for a 2025 Milwaukee first round pick.
Yes. So there's that. Detroit will also pick swap this year. So they have 46. They will now have 36 in the second round in Thursday's draft, while also getting back its own 2025, which Portland had. And then the Pistons also get the more favorable of the Blazers and Pelicans second round pick in 2026.
So when I first glanced at this deal and just saw the 2025 Milwaukee pick, which is not going to be very valuable, Giannis still exists. There's no way that Bucks team is going to be outside of, or is going to be in the lottery, right? This is a top 4 protected pick, I believe.
So, yeah.
But it's going to be a pick in the 20s in 2025, basically. I do think there is real value moving from 46 to 36 in this draft. Mm-hmm. It's a small thing, but it's not valueless. Obviously, they get the 2 other second round picks, or at least they get Well, yeah, they get 2 additional second round picks, I guess. So when I look at this deal, I think that it's probably commensurate in value with like the 17th pick in a draft, maybe like the 18th pick in a draft.
I like
And
that.
that's still probably a bit low in comparison to what people thought Jerami Grant's value was. But when I look at it, it just seems pretty obvious that Detroit here decided to move this pick into Portland's trade exception, which means that they clear the cap space that they need in order to chase free agents. And how this deal works out for them, I think, is just kind of incomplete at this point. It's almost not worth, like this is not a trade to give immediate grades on.
Right.
We won't know the grade until July 5th or whatever it feels like, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, in terms of what they got back in a trade, 7 never seemed on the table for me. Like maybe early on when Portland was seeming desperate, and I knew, to my knowledge, I know Portland had a list of guys that they wanted with the number 7 pick. I know Jerami was on the list. He was 5th, 6th to my knowledge. I never thought 7 was in play. I looked at teams like Cleveland at 14 and Atlanta at 16, I believe 16. And like that's possible, just given where they are as organizations, they might not need those picks. But I was never as high on Jeremy's value as maybe other Pistons fans were, just because of some of the stuff that was thrown out. And I played into it throughout the months, like just trying to get a gauge, because you look at what Aaron Gordon was traded for, and you think Jerami Grant now is pretty much on that level of where Aaron Gordon was then. But I think Jerami Grant's extension, maybe I would imagine maybe teams have hesitation there. I don't know if maybe that's why, but yeah, I reported in the story. And again, I believe I'm being told the truth. This is the best offer Detroit has had, concrete offer that Detroit has had for Jerami Grant, even dating back to last trade deadline. So I think what you said is important. Essentially, they're moving off money without taking money in. This is a team that went into the summer with arguably the most cap space, around 30 million. They can get up to 56 million if they don't bring back like a Hamadou or a Frank Jackson. And they're probably going to, I think they bring those two back, at least one of them. So you're kind of looking at mid 40s. So listen, Troy Weaver was brought in here for 2 things. Well, when he took over Detroit, 2 things were clear. This team has been struggled financially, not in terms of cap space, for quite some time. And they struggled in the draft. And in less than 3 years, Troy has, they have 40-something million in cap space, and that's with 11 million dead money still on the books. In Deadman, and I can't even remember who else. That's
Zaire Smith, and I believe
Smith.
Josh Smith as well has this last year on the books, maybe.
Yeah.
Or no, it's DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
So that in less than 3 years, that has been fixed. And then we go to the draft. He's done 2 drafts, and he has 3 first-team or 3 all-rookies. Sadiq, Isaiah, Cade, and Isaiah Livers, I think, is going to be a player in some capacity too. So 4 guys, and the verdict's still out on Killian. Hasn't looked great, but it's still the verdict's out. But I think 4 guys that I think they're probably excited about going forward. So yeah. I don't know. I think it's a very quick turnaround in terms of where the Pistons have struggled the most over the last decade to having a position where they actually have different avenues they can walk down for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and I think this is the benefit of having Cade now, right?
Yep.
Like you have your guy. You are now building around a star. The hardest thing to do is to find the star. You have him.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just try and make it work around him. And in terms of Grant, let's talk about that first real quick.
Yeah.
Like Jerami Grant is a valuable starting caliber player in today's NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He is switchable defensively. I think across all forward positions, you can have him on a bigger wing creator, which I think is actually something that has intense value in the playoffs.
Yep.
That we haven't gotten to see Jerami perform in Detroit since he's moved into being more of a primary scorer. But I would venture that in Portland, we probably see him step back a little bit in terms of being like a primary scorer at the end of the day, at least in comparison to where he's been in Detroit.
And
so
he has that. I think him and Dame are very close too. So I don't think there's going to be I don't think he'll be afraid to take a back seat to a guy he's very close with, and the pecking order is well defined there instead of how it was in Detroit early on before Cade kind of got rolling.
Now, them moving forward, they're in a spot where they have to make a decision on Anthony Simons this summer, which I'm like pretty interested in. If I was Detroit, I would chase Anthony Simons a little bit, to be honest. If I was, and now I'm Portland, I have to make a decision on Anthony Simons. He's going to cost $25 million a year, I think, like almost unquestionably, given the way that he closed the season, given what his upside is, given his age. That's going to be a big money deal. Like we're talking about like people worrying about Jalen Brunson getting 25 million, like 30 million a year. I think people's eyes are going to like fucking balloon out of their skull when they see what Anthony Simons is going to get, given how few people know really how good he is now as a pull-up scorer and shot creator. They have to make a decision on picking up Josh Hartsteele. They have to make a decision on re-signing Yusuf Nurkic. I think that their moves now make more sense to be able to move forward with Dame, with Nurkic, with Hart, with Simons, now that they have Jerami Grant. And I think additionally, because they have acquired this very good player for a good asset, not like a crazy good asset. They didn't have to give up number 7, for instance.
And while we're on it, just really quick, Haynes, and this has been out there, Haynes reported that Portland's going for OG with number 7. So if you want to add
they are
the equation, I don't know if that gets them, but
incredibly skeptical that they are able to do that. I think it would cost OG plus like other stuff, or I think it would cost 7 plus other stuff for OG.
I'm with you.
It now allows them, I think, to take a swing at number 7, which from what I gather is what Joe Cronin has always been like the big proponent of in the draft. Like they have obviously always been a team that goes for like crazy athletes. They take Anthony Simons, they take someone like Greg Brown. Neil O'Shea throughout his past has been publicly on the record saying like when he was in charge there that, we don't think there is any rookie who can come in and help us while we're a playoff team. So we are just going to take the best player available or the highest upside available and go from there. They took Gary Trent, for instance, as a freshman, one and done. So I think they're going to take Shaedon Sharpe is where I'm at.
It seems like the most logical landing spot for me when I think of where Sharpe goes. And it sounds like he's been, I don't think Detroit is, I think he's down the list for Detroit. And I don't see the Pacers taking him. And so I thought it started his range. The Pacers could, but it started at 7 for me with Sharpe.
Yeah. And this isn't me having intel on this. Like, don't aggregate this. This is me. This is me inferring based on the moves they've made, plus Joe Cronin being more of an upside guy, plus Mike Schmitz having been on the record that he wants. Let's see here.
Something happened.
Did something happen? Oh no, it's just the Haynes thing saying that Portland is in pursuit of OG and Anunoby for number 7. Yeah,
dude, I'm on edge still. Like I haven't come all the way down. You can't scare me like that.
I would be stunned if that happened. Same. Like that's bizarre to me. I mean, literally, like Dan Tolzman, the scouting director for the Toronto Raptors, like after a scrum, someone got him on camera saying like we'd essentially be hard pressed to find someone like OG at number 7 in this draft. So it would take an exorbitant amount more, I would think, for that deal to get done.
I'm with you.
Getting back to I'm like at the point now where I can't even remember what we were talking about.
We were talking about Portland, and we kind of transferred to Portland after talking about Detroit.
Yeah, so Portland now, I think that what they do just, you know, they're oh, we were talking about Shaden Sharp. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This isn't me aggregating this. This isn't me, or like, don't aggregate this. This is me reading the tea leaves. Mike Schmitz is like on the record on Woj's podcast saying that like he really would love the swing for Portland with Shaden Sharp at number 7 before he went to go work for Portland and before that was a thing that happened.
Yeah.
So
speaking of tea leaves really quick, do you think the Grant trade all but solidifies Keegan at 5 or no? If the Kings don't do it?
No, I think that this was probably more about they got a good deal for Grant. They opened up the space they want. I think that they'll take the guy that's highest on their board. I don't think that they'll like look to fill Jeremy's position. Basically.
I'm with you. And Troy said, we talked to him on Monday, and somebody asked him, does the draft dictate the rest of your offseason? And he looked at us and said, no, to be honest. And he wasn't lying.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I'm with you.
Okay. To Detroit. You have been making some very oblique DeAndre Ayton references on social media. And you straight up said in your story that you published on The Athletic that you expect the Pistons will be chasing DeAndre Ayton in free agency. Can you speak to the DeAndre Ayton of this all here moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know he fits the timeline first and foremost. As much as I think both you and I really like Isaiah Stewart, I think you kind of maybe look at Boston and you can see a world where you could see like a Robert Williams. I mean, obviously Isaiah Stewart doesn't have the height that those two do, that Horford and Robert Williams do, but defensively, like that could be fun. And Isaiah Stewart has improved as a 3-point shooter. I think he's going to improve. Like I'm still very much in that camp. Like I think there's going to be a time where Isaiah Stewart very soon shoots 3 or 4 threes a game in his mid-30s. So I don't think that necessarily that like means Isaiah Stewart is like an afterthought or anything. I think DeAndre Ayton is a very good player who fits their timeline. The Pistons have the money to go get him. Phoenix is the situation there is weird, even though it seems like they're trying to keep him based on like the latest reports. And Detroit has an opportunity to make a splash, and this free agency class isn't very good. I think, like you said, like DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Simons are two guys that could make a run for. But DeAndre Ayton specifically, I mean, it just kind of makes a ton of sense. It gives the Pistons, it gives Cade a lob threat. It gives them a good defensive anchor to go with Isaiah Stewart, who's already a defensive anchor. I think that's just like it just makes sense. Like it fits in every way possible. I don't know. Now, I don't know that they break the bank for Ayton. Like, maybe I'm wrong.
Mean, it's going to take a max. It's going to take $30 million a year to do it.
I wonder if they call. Okay, so my question to you is: do you think there is somebody that gives Ayton the 30? No question.
I think someone will give Ayton 30. Yeah, okay. I do.
I'd be curious.
I
wonder if they have a walk. I'd be curious if Detroit has a walk away number. I don't think it's like by any means.
Yeah, I can see them being like, look, we'll give you 120 without raises, maybe like go like flat 30 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I can see a world where they try to like implement a team or a player option because they will want to make this as disadvantageous for Phoenix to match as possible. Mm-hmm. They will add like all sorts of crazy trade kickers as well to make this as disadvantageous for Phoenix as possible. The thing that's interesting for me is now that they have opened this cap space, they can just offer DeAndre this deal and put pressure on Phoenix. Okay, are you really going to match?
Right. Like, before it felt like if something was going to happen, Jerami Grant was probably going to be involved in a sign.
It would have to be a sign and trade. Yeah.
Now that's not the case.
And look, maybe they will try. Maybe there will be like a sign and trade that occurs where Phoenix negotiates this. They open up a big trade exception,
right,
etc. But I really wonder if Phoenix is going to get much back from Detroit. I'm very clear on this. If I was Phoenix, I would match everything for DeAndre and just retain him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a bad idea for Phoenix to let him go. But I also worry now that, it seems like this is not going well with that relationship there. I also wonder if they're in a space where, like, is it almost like, here's a weird one. Is it possible that Detroit offers DeAndre the max?
Mm-hmm.
They open up, they say, hey, we'll do a deal with you guys to open up a big trade exception.
Yeah.
And then could Charlotte then send Gordon Hayward into their trade exception that matches that matches like the Ayton max?
And then the Suns get 13.
Maybe Suns get 15, maybe.
15.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they just take Hayward into that exception because like with a couple of seconds or something like that, or a future first, because they're not going to do much better than Gordon Hayward, I think, on a $30 million trade exception where you're just like bringing someone in. Right.
Yeah.
I
would definitely be rooting for, if I was Phoenix, be pushing for 13 or 15 to see if Mark Williams or Jalen Duren falls there, because might solve some problems. I don't think it gets you to where you want to go, but it makes losing Ayton a little bit more palpable.
Yeah. This is interesting now. Like there are some interesting constructions for Phoenix where you can make this work, even if it's just a trade exception that comes back and you make like a tangential deal to DeAndre Ayton getting a big, deal from Detroit, you opening up an enormous trade exception, and then, having that filled immediately, almost basically by someone. But I think you need to do that. If you're not matching DeAndre Ayton, you need to be willing to spend elsewhere. And that's what my worry is. Like, is Phoenix just going to spend elsewhere, or is Robert Sarver going to cheap out a little bit? Okay, let's start these offseason previews. Chicago Bulls, their biggest offseason question mark here. And as usual, as we go through these, I raise a few questions here on the offseason. We discuss them. We go from there. The Chicago Bulls, Zach LaVine's free agency, absolutely the biggest question mark. It seems very clear that you just give him a max level deal. His max, I believe, is around 5 years, $210 million. I think it's probably pretty likely he signs for the max. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably pretty likely that there could be some injury, like, insurance maybe on like the back end of that deal. Maybe the last year is like a vesting option of some sort if he plays, 60 games in 3 of the 4 seasons leading up to the last year.
Yeah. No, we're in lockstep on that. There was all that, and I don't know how, I don't cover the Bulls, so I don't know how true it was when people kind of insinuated that LaVine was turned off by everybody, kind of insinuating that the Bulls turnaround was because DeRozan came there and that he wasn't going to come back. I think as of late, everybody kind of feels a little more comfortable that he's going to come back. And I think that's just the best case scenario for the Bulls. They have something, while it has a ceiling, something that's good, something that's interesting. It won't improve. I guess maybe unless you did a sign and trade. But obviously LaVine would have to, he's a restricted free agent, right? Or unrestricted?
He is unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
LaVine is unrestricted.
LaVine's, He would have to want to help the Bulls out in that case. So I just don't think there's a better avenue for them. I think that they are a good team. They're fine. Maybe Pat Williams, if he can evolve and develop, adds a different dynamic to the team that will help. I just don't see any other avenue to get better other than keeping LaVine and just seeing if maybe luck can be on your side and you get a few. You're the benefit of a couple other teams going down in the standings or injuries or whatever. I think they're a solid enough team that they'll always hover in that 5 to 6 range.
Yeah, I think they're going to max them, and I think they're going to go chasing in free agency. The biggest next question now is, there have been pretty clear public rumors about Rudy Gobert being a real option for them and being, someone that they're chasing a little bit. If you're them, do you give up Pat Williams and 18 and Kobe White or, things like that for Rudy Gobert?
I would do that if I were Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, does that automatically imply that they would do something with Vooch too? Or are you saying Vooch would still be on the team?
Sure. I'm not sure what they do with Vooch in this situation.
Even regardless, I would do it because I think defensively, I think we all point to the Bulls like that's where their biggest weakness is. I don't think you're giving up much with 18. I like the idea of Pat Williams, but is Pat Williams somebody I'm going to regret giving up? I don't think so. And the time is now for the Bulls if it's going to happen. So why not? So I'm with you. I think if that would get them Gobert, I would do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if you could do Pat Williams and 18 for Rudy, I would do that. I think that team becomes a legit contender in the East if you do that. And Zach LaVine is able to stay healthy. You have LaVine, DeRozan, Rudy Gobert at that point. Plus you have all of your interesting, pseudo role players like Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso. You've done very, very well building on the margins. That team with
I like AO.
Io is going to be really good. Like they have, like I would do a Rudy deal if I was Chicago, and I would be willing to give up Pat Williams. I like Pat Williams a bit. Like I think he's a good starting quality player. And, at 18, you're hoping to get a good rotation player. Rudy's one of the 10 best players in the league. He signed long-term, or at least Rudy's one of the 15 best players in the league, let's say. He signed long-term. I know he's on big money, but I think you just make it work at that point.
Yeah, you've already gone down the road of we want to compete now, so you might as well go further down the road.
If you can't do Rudy, it's worth noting Nikola Vucevic is extension eligible. I probably don't extend him at that point, and I probably don't extend Kobe White. I think if I'm the Bulls, I think I'm looking to cash in right now. Like I think I am looking to cash in with Pat Williams and with Kobe White at the end of the day. Even if it's not Rudy, maybe it's someone else. I think I'm looking to try and get higher up the food chain in the Eastern Conference than where they are now, especially given some of the questions about the Nets moving forward, especially given, Boston seems to be in a good spot. Milwaukee seems to be in a good spot. Miami is getting older. Like at some point, Kyle Lowry is probably going to fall off a little bit.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler seems eternal, but like at some point you would think he's going to fall off a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at on them.
Before we leave the Bulls, just because of what we've been talking about, is there a Ayton deal there? Like if you're the Suns, would you take Vooch and Pat Williams? Is that too much for Ayton? I don't think so.
I mean, I'd be happy to do it if I was them, but if I mean, that requires DeAndre wanting to sign a deal there as well.
Right. That's the thing. Like if he's down to do it, I mean, that helps Phoenix stay afloat. Like again, Vooch fills the 5 void, obviously lose a little bit defensively, but Pat Williams as kind of a pseudo 4, like, I don't know. I kind of like that if that's something that could be mapped out.
I think I would rather do Rudy if I was Chicago than DeAndre because I just think Rudy's a better player. But
I'm with you.
I get it. I don't think it's a bad idea at all to at least explore that if Rudy is not able to happen with Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I don't know. This doesn't seem like a wild offseason for Cleveland. It's just a couple of questions, right? Like I'm assuming they give Darius Garland a max.
He's another guy we didn't mention with Detroit. I think that's possible.
Well, Darius Garland is not a.
I'm sorry, Colin Sexton. I'm thinking
Colin Sexton.
Colin Sexton is what I'm talking about. Yes, I think they give Darius Garland a max. Yes,
I think they give Darius Garland a max. Colin Sexton is now interesting. I have no idea what his number is. You could tell me it's qualifying offer from Cleveland. You could tell me it's 4 years, 80 million, anywhere in the middle of that. Like, I have no idea how to gauge him. And it's in part because there are so few teams that can offer him $20 million.
Right.
So do one of those teams value him enough to jump in with him or not? I don't know the answer to that question. I think that's a hard one.
I think Detroit likes him. I don't know if they love him. I know the idea they've always favored having another ball handler next to Cade, a combo guard to help take the pressure off him. Sexton fits that bill. He's also a scorer, addresses 3-point shooting, doesn't really aid in kind of the culture they're trying to build defensively, and small guard, kind of been a staple in Pistons as of late. Not the biggest guard, and they've notoriously had smaller guards. Yeah. But for the right price, like, I'm not the biggest Colin Sexton fan, but I've also only watched Colin Sexton play for a crappy Cavs team. So I don't know if the book is fully out on him, but I understand the appeal, and I think he definitely does fill voids for Detroit. I personally wouldn't give him more than like 18. I would be hesitant to go like 4 for 80, but I mean, it's a guy that can get you 20 points a game and shoot a high 30s from 3. That's kind of what those guys go for, and he's young.
Well, and he's a shot creator next to Cade, who can get a shot at the end of shot clocks, which is valuable. Let's say that this draft goes Keegan Murray for Detroit. They sign DeAndre Ayton. Then they still have the hole at like the combo guard spot next to Cade, someone who can play both on and off ball. You end up this offseason with Detroit, Colin Sexton, DeAndre Ayton, Keegan Murray. It's not a bad offseason. Like, no. I think that probably pushes them into an interesting space moving forward in the Eastern Conference. And it's an interesting first core for Cade. Because, look, these guys who are centerpieces so quickly, they go through multiple cores. Like, you can make it – like, you can go through a first set of players. If it doesn't work, I think as long as you could move guys, you could move them and you make it work. If I'm the Cavs, do I look to retain Colin Sexton is my question.
I say no.
I would rather sign and trade him for something, I think.
I'm with you. I don't know if I don't know. Colin Sexton's style of play, I think, could be a little funky for what that group built last year.
Yep.
I just don't know if the cohesion is as intriguing if Colin is there and as dominant with the ball as he can be. I would keep the ball in Garland's hands. I would continue to infiltrate or continue to have Murray. Oh, gosh darn. Mobley be a focal point. And then I would try to I would go for like maybe a more traditional wing if I were Cleveland.
I agree with you. I have been long on the train that I think that Colin Sexton and Darius Garland as a backcourt does not work in the playoffs. And thus, this is your chance, I think, to make a semi-clean break where you can get something back. You don't have to worry about what Colin's next deal is and how that impacts things moving forward. You don't have to worry about the fit of him and Karis LeVert and Darius, worrying over touches there on top of, Evan Mobley getting touches, on top of Kevin Love getting the touches that he got last year. I like the idea of them just trying to sign and trade him and kind of moving forward. Do they try and extend Karis LeVert? So they have real flexibility that they can get in the offseason going into the 2023-24 season.
Mm-hmm.
Any LeVert deal changes that. And really, like any Collins or any Darius Garland max changes that, but they have enough cap flexibility moving forward here because Evan Mobley is so good already. And because Jared Allen's only on about $20 million a year,
right?
That they're going to be able to clear out that roster, clear out their books, and kind of make it work. I would venture they probably do not extend Karis LeVert because of that. And I think they look toward flexibility moving forward.
I would think so too. For as much as Karis could bring to that second unit and how important it is to have kind of like the get hot quick guy, just the money he's probably going to command. He's already at 18. I don't think like he's been poor enough that it's anything less than that if whatever he signs next. I don't think it's worth it, and I think you can maybe find what he brings elsewhere. And for Cleveland to keep the flexibility, I think it is important because they do have something brewing, and they could be a piece away at some point, and just to have the flexibility to do something like that, I think is important. So I'm rolling with you.
All right. Finally, they just need to find like an impact wing at the end of the day. Like, I don't even have names. Like, draft one at 14, Ousmane Dieng, Jalen Williams, draft a guy that you think can be a good wing, basically. Someone between 6'4" and 6'7" who can guard, who can create shot. Like, it's harder to find than you would think, but find one, please. Like, that's
they
my
need
take.
One. Yeah, I thought they were going to be hot on the Jerami Grant train, but they need to address that, because I think that's the piece they're right there from being like actually serious. They need that piece, and it's not easy to find, but there are some guys in this draft, as you mentioned, that could be there for them at 14, and I think could make an impact right away.
All right, let's go to the Pacers. So
they're
for
so
me,
weird.
Well, I think that they're trying to get less weird over the next few days.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if, like, while we're recording this, like, something happens with them.
Same.
Right. I've written this already in the mock draft, but they're very active right now when you talk to sources around the league. Like, they're canvassing the league, trying to figure out what they want to do. They just have a number of, options on the table. Is it you keep Malcolm Brogdon and, continue to build around that backcourt? Do you move Malcolm Brogdon for draft capital? Do you keep Miles Turner because you think he opens up the court developmentally for some of these young guys that you could end up with? Do you trade? Like, there's just a number of things, I think, that are kind of on the table right now for them. I think they just need to find a long-term vision and stick with it. If I was them, I would be moving heaven and earth to move up to number 4 and draft Jaden Ivey at this point.
Yeah.
He's an Indiana kid. He fits incredibly well with Tyrese Halliburton. I'd be willing to give up, like I've said, Duarte. I'd give up something else in addition to Duarte +6 for number 4. I'm a big Jaden Ivey believer, though, and I get that some people have some concerns.
Wouldn't it be so Kings if they said, "Hey, just give us 6 and Miles Turner, so we can pair Sabonis and Turner"? Wouldn't that be the most Kings thing?
Yeah, don't do that, please.
Do not do that.
Don't, please free Miles Turner and let him have his own thing going in the middle somewhere. That's all. So
that's what I want them to do. I think, first of all, I think Ivy and Halliburton, I think, would be a great fit. If they're unable to move up to 4, I like the idea of keeping Turner, like you said.
Yep.
Rim protecting, floor spacing, big man opens up the floor for their young guards, who I think they should add another young guard and just take Benedict Mathurin at 6. I would like a Halliburton, Mathurin, Turner core. Figure out what you do with TJ Warren. Figure out that void at the 3 and the 4, but trade Brogdon, go Halliburton, Mathurin.
You have Duarte as well,
and you have you have Chris Duarte.
Which is good.
Which is good. And I'd keep Turner. Like, I would keep Turner and I would move Brogdon.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do as well. I would try and extend Miles Turner. I would understand where his mind is moving forward into next offseason. Like, does he want to be there? Is he willing to be there? If not, then you probably do have to take a serious look at him. But I would be willing to extend Miles Turner with this core. I think he's really good. I think he actualizes a lot of different lineup combinations, because it's really still very hard to find guys who are elite rim protectors and floor spacers.
Yes.
And those guys at the center position are exceptionally valuable. That is why, like, I've seen some people raise like number 13 for Miles Turner with Charlotte. If I'm Indiana, it costs more than 13 for Miles Turner to me.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm not moving him for just that pick.
I think he might be the most, I don't want to say underrated, but I want to say undervalued. I don't want to say the most, one of the most undervalued players in the NBA. Like I think there is more there that we all see, but we want to see it. We want to see him have the opportunity to show it.
Right. We haven't gotten a chance to see it yet because of the situation he's been in, right? Like that's the critical issue here. In terms of everything else, I'm clear. I would try and move up to 4. If they can't, that's great. You know, I'm with you. I think I try and move Malcolm Brogdon. I like the Wizards and Knicks are looking for point guards. Number 10, number 11 are right there. Yep. Deals involving those picks make sense. You know, if you do the Wizards should be going in one direction or another. If they're going to re-sign Bradley Beal, I think they should be moving in the direction of competing. Malcolm Brogdon, you know, and maybe something else for number 10 and what it'd have to be like KCP and a couple other things.
I think there might be a 3-team trade there.
Maybe.
Let's do the Pacers get 4. The Wizards get Brogdon. Yeah. And whatever, like we'll the minor parts we could figure out if we want to. The Pacers get or the Kings get 6 and 10.
10. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, is there like a team that they could like throw 6 and 10 at, and like what would that get you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, or if you're Sacramento, do you just do Brogdon and 6 for 4?
That was one I pitched to. I have a friend who's a Kings fan. I asked him if he would do that, and he said he would. He's also not a big Jaden Ivey fan, so he said he would do that.
Yeah, that's interesting because he's big. Like you could actually play him with De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell a little bit.
Yep.
I think people don't really recognize how enormous Malcolm Brogdon is. Like I've said this on the pod before, but like if you stand next to him, if you shake his hand, he is a big dude.
He's big. He's stocky. And I think too, I think there's just like this idea. I know we're talking about the Pacers, but if the Kings got Brogdon, I don't necessarily like everybody. I think everybody has the idea that the Kings didn't want to play multiple guards. That's why they traded Halliburton. I don't think that's the case. I think they just wanted Domantas Sabonis, and the price was Tyrese Halliburton. Like I don't think they're, even if it pertains to Ivy, like I don't think they're opposed to multiple guards. I don't think they're trying to make room for Davion Mitchell in the starting lineup. I think long term Davion is probably a 6 man. That's just me. You might have different opinion on that. I would try to get somebody else in there as a core piece going forward.
That's interesting. That's hard. I really think that I think that Ivy is in like a different stratosphere than Keegan and
Ben
Mathurin. I really like Mathurin a lot. I shouldn't say he's in a different stratosphere than Ben. But if Ben was to go like 5 or something like that, and then you have Keegan at 6, I would rather have Ivy, I think, than Brogdon and Murray, because I think that highly of Jaden and his upside and the fit there moving forward. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know what to do there yet. That's to me, like that's what I'm trying. I don't know. The Kings are the hard one right now. And the Pacers are like the second hardest one because I've heard a lot of different names there too. From like sources around the league in terms of who they could like. I think that they would take Mathurin at 6, but I'm not 100% clear on that.
I'm with you. And I would throw Detroit in there too. Like I feel more comfortable. I felt more comfortable 3 weeks ago about who they would pick than I do today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got what else here with the Indiana Pacers? The question is like, are you are you fully actualizing Malcolm Brogdon's trade value if you just do like 6 and 4 or 6 in Brogdon for 4, or like constructions around that where it's like Brogdon goes to the Wizards and you get 10 and then it's 6 and 10 for 4 and it's a number of different things, right? Like essentially you're trading Brogdon and 6 for 4. I think you are, because I think that Malcolm is that good, or I think that Jaden is that good.
I was going to say, if you think Jaden's that good, you just go get your guy.
But like, let's like game plan this out a little bit more. Like if you're the Pacers, maybe you can get number 6, you take Ben Mathurin, number 10, you take Johnny Davis or something like that. You now have a backcourt core of Tyrese Halliburton, Ben Mathurin, Chris Duarte, Johnny Davis with Miles Turner in the middle. That's a pretty fun core.
Yeah.
Like that's a really interesting one, I think.
I'm with you. I think that's the route the Pacers should go, personally. Yeah. I don't know enough about Rick Carlisle to know if he's built for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that hiring him doesn't signal that, but it also, a lot of this is kind of, I don't know if a lot of this is manifested over the last few months that they're in this position where they can like full on rebuild if they want.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they've been so weird to me, is because you hear mixed signals about they just want to retool, like kind of what Portland's doing. Like they're trying to take a year step back to build it back up. But then you're hearing that they might rebuild, and they have very good avenues for both. So that's why I think they're weird. And then you factor in who their coach is. It's interesting to me. I would go. I think the Kings should take Ivy and trade Fox, but they're not going to do that.
I agree with you. I've said that throughout, that if I was the Kings, that's what I would do, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're not going to do that, but that's the same thing with the Pacers. I think the Pacers should try to go get as many lottery picks in this draft as they can.
Yeah, like the problem with the Kings, if you do that, is, and I know we're talking about the Pacers now, but like the problem with Kings, if you do that, is you're probably moving Fox for 11 to the Knicks and something else, right? Yeah. Or like, to the Wizards for 10 and something else. You're setting yourself up to rebuild again. Yeah. And I think that's just like actively what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm skeptical that they would go down that route, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but they should, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I would say this, like you can give Miles Turner like a 4-year, $100 million extension. I would do that. Like if he's willing to take that, I would do that. I think he's really good. Okay. The Milwaukee Bucks, they have Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez, both under contract, both extension eligible. I would imagine that if Middleton is willing to take an extension, they probably do it. I guess it's possible they could look into like a 1-year extension for Brook Lopez. But to me, this is all about like accentuating your core if you're the Bucks, and just hoping that you're healthy next year for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's much to talk about with them. I think they bring back, obviously, the primary core. I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room to do much. They're my pick if everybody's healthy to win it all next year. And I mean, for them, they got the 24th pick. I would go straight upside with that. I wouldn't, if I were them, I wouldn't. I guess this is where it gets tricky. If you could flip that into a ready now player to add to your rotation, it makes sense. But I also think if I were Milwaukee, I would just take a high swing on a guy just in case, like a kind of like a Warriors situation. Obviously, they're not getting as high a picks, but you maybe hope that this guy is better quicker than you think, or you have just some type of like light down the road.
So what I would do if I was them, I think that the Magic would like to move into the first round using 32 and 35. If I'm the Bucks, I would rather have 32 and 35 than 24. I would move 24 for 32 and 35, get 2 swings at guys that frankly for me are in the same tier. Like for Orlando, they have so many young guys. Consolidating 32 and 35 into one young guy that they really like, or maybe like a little bit more, plus getting the extra year of team control, is a little bit more valuable for them than 32 and 35 are. For the Bucks, having 2 swings at potential, minimum level players, rookie minimum level players, where that saves them quite a bit of tax money. Plus you get 2 swings on potential rotation players down the road. I think that's actually a really valuable thing for Milwaukee. And that's what I would do if I was them on draft night.
if you're John Horst and the Pistons call and offer you 36 and Kelly Olynyk, who has a non-guaranteed deal starting next year, that if he's not on for a certain day, I think he's only owed like $3 million or something like that for 24 and whoever gets you to the cap space you need to get there. Would you do that? Does Kelly Olynyk interest you?
A little bit because of the shooting.
That's what I'm saying. I think it makes sense.
Probably.
Or would you rather have 32 and 35?
I think I'd rather have 32 and 35.
Fair.
I think I would rather have 32 and 35. Just given that Kelly is expensive still if you're keeping him.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's not a bad idea though. Like that's not like a crazy plan, I don't think. In terms of their other guys, I believe Pat Connaughton opted into his player option, which surprised me.
Shocked.
Yeah. So that's going to save Milwaukee money. Bobby Portis, I would imagine, is going to get some pretty real money. He can sign a deal up to $11 million a year. I would think that I think it's like a 4-year, $55 million deal. Maybe you do 3 years, 3 years, 40 or whatever the number is, 3 years, 41 or something. And you go from there. But he should get real money at this point. In general, I'm just looking to add like one more ball handler. I'm looking to add just a little bit more shooting and defense. And, I'm using 24 in the best way I can to maybe try and get a couple of swings on young guys or just one swing on a young guy. I think that their off season is very simple at the end of the day.
I'm with you. That tends to be how it is when you're right there for the title race. I don't think they need to get crazy.
Okay. We're up with the Southeast Division. The Atlanta Hawks have one of the more complicated off seasons moving forward. What do you do with John Collins, who has been very clearly, it seems like, being telegraphed as someone who's going to be moved?
I want to ask you first about Collins. Is it like, I like Collins. I don't love him, but it feels like he's a guy that should be like, if he's as available as he is, it feels like it's not talked about enough. Like there are a lot of teams that John Collins could help, but you don't like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like it's been kind of underplayed, the market for him. I think it happens. I don't know what Atlanta. I guess I struggle with what does Atlanta get back that's better in a John Collins.
So Mark Stein, as we're talking literally right now, just tweeted out from his most recent
Substack
article. The Hawks are weighing a variety of scenarios as they pursue a John Collins trade in connection with Thursday's draft, with a deal headlined by Collins and Sacramento's Harrison Barnes among Atlanta's prime options. So, like, I don't know. The Sacramento part of this is weird for me too, because I think John Collins is really good.
Yeah.
But Domantas Sabonis likes to operate out of the post, the mid post. John Collins can shoot, but like John Collins is best when you have him like rim running and attacking the basket.
Yep.
Are you going to but you already have De'Aaron Fox running like a lot of fun actions off of movement, like, running dribble handoffs with Domantas Sabonis and things. Are you going to use John Collins like in the dunker spot? Maybe use Sabonis's passing ability, use De'Aaron's speed to kind of hit him there.
Yeah.
Are you going to use him just to like space the floor? I think that that's like a strange fit. Like I've always wanted John Collins with like a great floor spacing shot blocking center. Like I want him in like Indiana, for instance.
Yeah.
Like pairing him with Miles Turner would be great. Or like trying to trade for Miles Turner and bringing him down to Atlanta would be great, I think. Because that creates your lob threat for Trey with John Collins. It creates your floor spacing threat with Miles Turner. You retain the defensive integrity that you need around Trey with a drop coverage scheme with Turner. That would be one of my targets if I was Atlanta.
Yep.
And I would move Clint Capella. But like, it seems like, I wonder how much of this is they really like Onyeka Okongwu and they want to buy minutes for Onyeka Okongwu, maybe, who went number 6 overall in a couple drafts.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like and John's a weird player to fit, even though I'm with you. I actually love John Collins as a
Yeah.
player. And
I d-
he's tough, man. Like I
he
want
is.
guys that are super fucking tough that I can trust to like be willing to play their role in the playoffs, but be effective within their role in the playoffs, which he proved last year, I thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for me, where the minor hesitation is, I don't know if I want to see him away from Trey. Not that I'm saying like
Yeah.
it's Trey's fault or anything. I've always felt like he's been used funky's the best way I can put it. Like it's clear the talent is there. I just don't know like what. I don't know if I know what the best use of John Collins is, but I know there is a good use, and I don't know if the best use of John Collins makes a team significantly better, I guess is my that's not what I want to say. I don't know if the best use of John Collins is the best thing for a team that wants to win a championship, I guess is my thing.
I think you can do that with John Collins. Like, I think that you can build a roster situation where John Collins is averaging like 18 and 8 and being super efficient as a lob threat and spacing the floor as a pick and pop guy. But it takes a very specific roster fit around him.
Right.
That is difficult to acquire.
That's how I feel. That's a great way to put it.
Like, it limits your roster flexibility a little bit, maybe. Is John is a great, like, I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
And I am a big fan of his. And I love the way that he's improved defensively. Like, I think he holds up now at the 4, which was always the concern. Like,
kudos to him.
He can actually strides. Move around. He can do all of what he needs to at the 4 defensively now. He's gotten really good with angles. He reads the play pretty well. Like, I am a fan of John. I think it's hard to build a scheme around him that really works because you need that floor spacing 5 who isn't going to want to run pick and pops. It's almost like you need like Brook Lopez. You need Miles Turner. You need guys that are difficult to find. You need Chet Holmgren, for instance, right?
Yes.
Demonis, I don't think is that guy, to be honest, which makes it a little bit tricky, especially given how much he likes to be involved in the primary action of the play with dribble handoff. So I don't like this deal at all for Sacramento. I don't like it for John Collins either, frankly.
What would Atlanta do with 4, do you think?
I'm assuming they don't get 4 for John Collins. Are you?
What it would just be, was it just be Harrison? What do you think it would be?
Harrison and maybe like a future first or something.
I wouldn't do that then if I were Atlanta. I feel like you get more for John. Yeah, I mean, I think 4 is high, but I wouldn't do just Harrison and a future first. I'd rather keep John.
Yeah. I think I would too. That's why like all of this doesn't make, I don't know what Atlanta is.
I don't know what their goal. Yeah, like we all think that they're trying to get back to where they were 2 years ago, but what are you looking for? Like, what do you think the ideal pairing is with Trey? Because I assume this is what all this is for, of course. Like, what do you think that ideal pairing is, and do they even have anything close to going and get it?
My plan for them was I would chase Rudy Gobert really hard because he's the guy that like fits really well with Trey. He insulates Trey defensively. They have to run a drop with Trey because he gets killed in switches.
Yeah.
And there's no better drop defender than Rudy. Rudy's obviously an incredible lob catcher. That makes a lot of sense. The thing that I said is I'd be willing to give up DeAndre Hunter for him. And it seems like Atlanta is not willing to give up DeAndre Hunter at this point.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think Gobert is a good fit. I don't know. Trey is better than Donovan Mitchell. The Hawks are a bit deeper. The Hawks are a bit deeper, not a bit. I would rather have the Hawks perimeter players than Utah's.
Yep.
I don't factor in Hunter defensively. Utah doesn't have that on the perimeter. Other than that, Herter's a good defender. Herter's fine.
Yeah. Herter's a good team defender. You can't use him as like the primary guy on.
So maybe it works better than maybe it works better than it has for Utah.
I think it would.
Yeah.
I actually think it would. Like, I think that Rudy would average more points per game. I think that, I'm saying that I would move DeAndre Hunter, but you have Kevin Huerter, you have Bogdanovich, you have, I mean, it'd be funny that you'd be going to play with another Bogdanovich, but like,
you have pick 16 unless you trade. Would you trade Collins in 16 for Gobert? Is that too much?
My idea was like DeAndre Hunter in 16 and like guarantee Gallinari or something like that.
Okay.
You give them cap relief. You give them the great wing defender that they are hunting for. You give them a good draft pick.
So you want to
everything
keep
like
Collins
that.
in this scenario too?
I would probably try and move Collins elsewhere.
Move him elsewhere.
And
okay.
do it like in a separate deal.
Separate deal.
For
okay.
like a great, I would try and find my wing in a Collins deal, basically.
Okay.
Honestly, then for them, the Sacramento deal makes sense.
Yep.
Because then you get Harrison Barnes. Your wings are now, you have Huerter, Bogdanovich, Harrison Barnes, Rudy Gobert. You have Trae Young, obviously. That's like a core that makes sense to me.
Yes, I'm rolling with you. When we map it out, it makes a lot more sense. Moving parts, but yeah, when you map it out, I like that a lot more.
And then you have the Onyeka Okongwu thing.
Yep.
Yeah, like I think there's a lot there. It seems like they're going to give DeAndre Hunter an extension. I don't know what that's going to be. I have no idea what his number is.
None at all.
Injury prone at this point, but he's great when he's on the court. They made a run without him basically in the playoffs. So like, I'm totally unclear on what that is. The other thing is like Atlanta has never paid the tax. That's the other thing. Under this ownership,
yep,
Atlanta has not yet paid the tax. Are they willing to pay the tax?
You would hope so. I think it's time.
I would hope so too.
I think it's time.
I agree.
I'm curious what a Hunter extension looks like.
Yeah. I don't really know.
460 too much? Too little?
No, I think it's too low. I don't think Hunter accepts that.
Yeah.
That's a situation where you get into the Miles Bridges issue of what happened this year. Like if you're extending him, like it almost has to be for 18 to 20, I think. What he's going to ask for.
What was his extension from Toronto again? Was it
468, I believe.
You think that's fair? You think that's about?
I think OG is pretty underpaid. So
I remember when that happened, I was shocked.
Yeah.
But then that also, like, to me, DeAndre hasn't, as good as he's been when he's on the floor, he hasn't even, I don't know if he's deserved the 4 for 68. Like, if you look at the resume, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree. He's a weird one. But like, if I'm him, I'm not capping myself out at 460. I'm not taking that. Yeah. I'm playing this year and seeing where it goes. Just much like Miles Bridges did this year and spiked his value 2 times over, right?
Yep.
The Charlotte Hornets, speaking of Miles Bridges, they're up next. They just have to re-sign Bridges, I think, at the end of the day.
Yep.
Like you make it roll. Okay. 13 and 15. I think that they use one of these picks. I think they use the other as a trade asset in some way. There have been rumors that they're trying to use it to get off of Gordon Hayward's deal. Gordon Hayward is good at basketball. Like, yeah. I get it that he's injury prone, but he is still very good at like playing the actual sport that he's paid to play.
Mm-hmm. I put it in my story. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
If the Pistons strike out, I wouldn't hate 13 and Gordon in Detroit.
So like, I've seen Sam Quinn from over at CBS pose this idea where why would you not just move Gordon Hayward for Russell Westbrook and then just cut Westbrook and move forward instead of giving up Gordon Hayward and 13 for something? And then if you're like the Lakers, are you doing better than Gordon Hayward for Russell Westbrook?
No, that I agree with.
If the whole idea is to get off of Gordon Hayward's money, right? Because you want to use that money to pay Miles and you don't want to be a tax team right now.
Right.
Doesn't that make sense?
It does make sense. Russell has this year and next year on his deal.
I think he has this year and that's it.
Oh, then yes, I would make that deal.
Let me confirm that as we're talking, but I think he just has this coming year.
If it's 2 years and they end up waiving and stretching him, then I maybe have hesitation. If it's just this year, I'm on board.
Yeah, it's just this coming year, and that's it.
I would do that deal.
And look, if I was Charlotte, like I would just pay and keep Gordon Hayward and keep Miles Bridges and like see what this core looks like again. But if you really feel like you need to get rid of the Hayward money, I don't know why you would attach 13 or 15 in order to do it when you can just do this other thing, I would think.
I'm with you. And I think
and that makes a ton of sense for the Lakers.
I think it makes a ton of sense for the Lakers. I think the Hornets are still in the position where the expectations aren't there to be, they're exciting. I think we would all agree that they probably were a year ahead what they did this past season. I would say they outkicked their coverage a little bit. I don't think that the expectation is like for the Hornets to make this massive leap. They still have a very young core. I think that the idea of doing that is fine. If Russell Westbrook only has a year left, you get off that money next summer. With they're in the spot where they have roster moves they can do to really piece it around. I don't necessarily think the next best Hornets team is this team we see. I think it's LaMelo and some other guys. I like that. I would do that and then keep 13 and 15, keep swinging for the fences. And I mean, you have a team right now where you don't need 13 and 15 to heavily contribute, but there's a world where you could get Jalen Duren at 13 and then there solves your center problem.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Mark Williams. So I'm with you. There's no need to attach it. Just get Russ and tell him and buy him out.
Yeah. Buy him out.
Yeah.
It's weird to me. But again, if I was them, I would just keep Gordon Hayward. So I don't know what maybe they can't, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. Their roster is a bit strange. Do you keep Kelly Oubre?
What's his deal again?
It is.
Do you have it in front of you? I'm sorry.
As we're talking. I believe it is. Where is the problem is I don't have my keyboard hooked up.
Pull it up too.
Let's see here.
Kelly Oubre.
I have their cap table up. It is he's $12.6 million next season.
And then that's it.
And then that is it. And it's $5 million guaranteed, by the way.
Okay. I like Kelly. I like Kelly's role in Charlotte. I thought he had some very good moments last season. I would keep him. I wouldn't extend him or anything. I would keep him, see what happens, see how he plays, take him to the deadline, poke around. And if you like what you get from him, maybe, I don't know, engage in the next offseason and see if you want to keep him around as kind of like the guy off the bench. I would not. I mean, I don't know what comes in. I like Kelly Oubre. I don't think he's overpaid. I think he brings something to the basketball team. I would just roll with him and then just at each step, the trade deadline, see what's there. I wouldn't be afraid to trade him either, but I also wouldn't be trying to trade him.
Well, and if you're moving Gordon Hayward, I think you keep Kelly.
Yeah,
and
you need
that's
more.
Your ready-made replacement, basically.
Yep.
Okay. Do you extend PJ Washington? Is the other thing.
I don't, and I like PJ, but I almost. So let's go with what me and you both think they should do is keep Gordon. I think the best starting lineup for them is Mason, even though I'm not a Mason fan, but Mason, Miles, Gordon, Terry, LaMelo.
Yeah.
I just think PJ is not a 5.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't extend him to be your backup 4.
Yeah. At the number that it's probably going to take, I wonder if he becomes a real trade chip this summer. But I'm probably willing to pay him 14 million or so to be my like 6th man that is super versatile, comes in off the bench, plays the 4, plays the 5, defends at a high level. If he's willing to take that number,
I would do that for that. Yeah. If he's willing to take
Yeah.
that number, I would do it. I'm with you on that.
If he's willing to do 456, something like that, I'm in on that. That sounds like how you make it work, I think.
I'm with you.
Maybe not. I don't know.
But I also don't like has PJ done enough to, of course, there's upside with him. I think there's more. I think PJ in the right situation looks a lot better than he has. And I don't think he's looked terrible, but I wonder if like the 14 million a year, like, has he done anything to warrant any more?
No, I mean,
I don't think that's a bad number.
He's a legit starting caliber player who averages 10 points and 5 rebounds, plays good defense, makes his 2-point shots, can shoot out to 3. That's kind of what these guys get paid now. Yeah. It's just kind of like it is at the end of the day. So I agree with you, though. He could be in a better spot soon. Okay, let's go to the Miami Heat. It seems like PJ Tucker is opting out and maybe moving on. They have to figure out what to do with Victor Oladipo, but this is a team that always just takes a big swing. Do you see what this swing is for Miami? Because I'm struggling to find it this offseason.
I am too. Do they search around and find a team that loves Tyler Hero enough to give up something really good? I am a Tyler Hero fan, but I am also cognizant of the fact that that is a guy that could get played off the floor in an NBA Finals series defensively. So there's hesitation there. Do teams want Duncan Robinson? I would think so, but I don't know the value if you're going to get value back in trading Duncan Robinson because of the money and him. Again, I mean, he's a guy get played off the floor when games matter.
Yeah.
To me, those are the really only 2 realistic trade chips. And I just don't know if the return, I think they're worth more to Miami than others. Maybe somebody talks himself into Hero.
I think that Tyler's really good. They're in a weird spot because it feels like if you're going to cash in Tyler Hero, you want to do it before you extend him.
Yes.
But there isn't really a guy to cash in for right now if you're them. Like, I would think that they're a real potential landing spot if Bradley Beal would ever ask out of Washington.
Yep.
Right.
Which I'm not sold will ever happen, but
I'm not sold will ever happen either.
Yep.
But could you do something like Bradley Beal for Hero Hero, and you throw in like the Kyle Lowry money plus like all of their future firsts or something like that. Like maybe that's it. Right. Yeah. But I don't think that Beal is going to ask out. So that's not a real deal that would ever be on the table. Like, I don't know. Kyrie does not seem like an Eric Spoelstra guy to me.
No. I'm with you.
Maybe you could convince him to like join the Heat culture and it could work.
I'd be afraid of Kyrie in Miami. That's just me.
I kind of strangely think that it's just going to work with Kyrie in Brooklyn and he's going to go back there. That's my weird take on this, that it seems like everyone's assuming that he doesn't just get like a max from Brooklyn now because Brooklyn's trying to hold firm.
Yeah.
I think Brooklyn's just going to have to break at the end of the day.
I do too. Yeah, I'm with you. They're going to have to do it. Who is the swing? Does it need to be like...
So, like, here's a name. Like, DeJounte Murray continues to get floated.
That's right? What I've heard, yes.
Like, continues to randomly just get reported on every time, like, on the margins as someone, hey, maybe this could be available.
I think there's worry about extending him.
I don't, if I'm Miami, like that's an interesting one to me because the Duncan Robinson money gets you equal. Would you trade Hero for DeJounte Murray?
If I'm Miami, yes.
Okay.
If I'm San Antonio, and I assume if we both heard the same thing, and San Antonio, whatever it is with DeJounte, that they don't want to extend him. There's other things there, whatever.
I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but I've heard this too.
Find it weird that he comes up in reports.
Yeah.
About like someone that the Spurs, for whatever reason, like are making, or at least taking like calls on, or the wording of the reporting is always weird. Like, don't aggregate this. We're just like talking here.
Yeah.
But like, this isn't our reporting. Like we're going off of what's publicly like randomly comes up.
Right.
And maybe it's just other teams trying to steal DeJounte Murray out from San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Right. But it is weird that his name keeps coming up in in the way that it does.
Yeah. Is there if that's the case, and I know I'm trying to figure out a way to work Miami into this, is there a way for the Spurs to jump to 4? The Kings, I'm trying to figure out what the Kings in Miami would get. Like that could be the swing. Maybe there's something.
No, maybe. But like, if you're like, I don't know what San Antonio is trying to move DeJounte Murray for either.
Right. Yeah, that's
what's weird. Like I don't know if they want to do Tyler Hero for him. So like maybe it's not, but like I'm just trying to come up with names like DeJounte Murray, like theoretically. OG Anunoby seems perfect for them if Toronto is realistically trying to move him, which I am extraordinarily skeptical on, but maybe that could be a thing.
And I don't see Hero as a Raptors guy.
Neither do I. Yeah. But I don't know if they would move Hero for OG either. Because you know,
I
OG
think they
has
should, but they wouldn't.
Wide.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, like the Nuggets are pretty locked in. I don't think they would be like the D'Angelo Russell team if the Timberwolves tried to move him. Like,
I can't see that either.
Maybe it is for Miami. They just run it back and be super competitive again. Make the, second round of the playoffs, conference finals, hope for injuries to get to a title run again, or like a finals run again, and go from there. And then try and like build around Jimmy late, like the next off season.
Is there like a Norm Powell, Luke Kennard Hero trade?
No, I don't think so.
I would love Norm Powell in Miami. I've always envisioned that.
But the thing with those two teams is that they both really value that like toughness and everything like that. So like, I think that they both would value them heavy, and it would be hard to consummate a trade there. Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one. Maybe with Miami, it is they just like kind of run it back. They have number 27. They bring back Oladipo. Maybe they end up trying to have to overpay for PJ Tucker for a year, and they can't make a big swing.
And I don't know if that's the end of the world. I'm worried about Lowry, but I still think that team is good enough. Like, I don't think next year is the year that the tires fall off fully.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe standing pat, no pun intended, wouldn't be the end of the world for Miami. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. Orlando, this will be a quick one. They take Jabari Smith in all likelihood, not done certainly, but Jabari Smith is rising in betting odds again because it seems like people think it's going to be Jabari. They have to make a decision
I think
on
Chet
Mo Bamba.
Goes 1, by the way.
You think Chet goes 1?
I want to put that on record. And I want to make this known. You're the GOAT and you have Jabari going 1. This is just James's crazy trying to be.
Why do you think this? This is interesting.
Orlando,
because Hollinger thinks it too, and John's also like, you are smart. John is smart. I am curious when people say this.
I think I personally think just Chet has the most upside. I think honestly that's it. Like I just think that the idea of Chet is too enticing to pass. It's scary as hell.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of Chet is too good to pass up. I think that they have like what do you do? I don't know. I don't like when a team has the number one pick. I don't like thinking about like what do you do with this guy, like whatever. But like if Jonathan Isaac comes back and he's anything like he was before the injury, you have Wendell Carter. Like I just like Chet's fit with that a little bit more than Jabari.
It's a problem regardless of which one of those two you
right,
take.
like one of those three or
Like,
one of those two are going to be gone eventually. But
well, like it's just like no matter if you take Jabari or Chet, the Jonathan Isaac conundrum, like in the prep that I sent you, like I just have Jonathan Isaac question mark.
yeah,
Because I have no idea. Like and like we shouldn't have any idea because Jonathan Isaac hasn't played in a while at this point.
Right.
Coming off of significant knee injuries. And he is a genuinely like special defender.
Yep.
But there are offensive questions still, unfortunately. And I don't know what you do with Jonathan Isaac. Like I would, if I was a team that needed a swing, I would be kind of poking around maybe to see what the value, like, could you maybe get Jonathan Isaac for something a little cheaper? But I don't know. I think it's a problem though, regardless of taking Chet or Jabari at the end of the day.
To go back to Orlando, I have a hunch. I have no reporting. I think Chet goes 1. I think the upside. And then because of that, I think Paolo goes 2.
Yeah.
I think it gets weird.
I firmly disagree, but we'll see tomorrow.
If I were listening to this podcast and you're a betting person, I would take Sam's advice and not listen to James. But I'm rolling with if this happens, I want to be
I love the creativity.
Yeah, I'm getting weird with it.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Like none of us knows until we know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like anyone knows totally yet.
But I think it is leaning toward Jabari at number 1. I think if it totally feels like that, just based on reading you and others, I think it's probably likely.
It's not the worst thing in the world to be on Hollinger's side. John is very smart. John is very connected, and he gets stuff right. So, but I think it's going to be Jabari, and I think it's going to be Chet too, and I think it's going to be Paulo 3. Okay, last team here that we have to talk about. I just want to know, Orlando is like a real spot for teams to shed contracts when free agency hunting. I would expect that they end up getting assets to do that, to kind of, rent out their cap space. I don't know what they're going to do with Mo Bamba. I just have no idea.
Do you really like their young core? Like, are you a fan?
I like Suggs and Wagner a lot.
I like Wagner and Wendell Carter.
Yeah, I will like Suggs, Wagner, and the guy they get at 1.
Okay.
Quite a bit. I like the idea of Wendell Carter for sure. And I think that Wendell Carter's presence really helps, either Chet or Jabari, depending on who it is. Just won't have to, take on tough assignments every single night. He can play the 5. I mean, they have Fultz, obviously. They have the Jonathan Isaac thing that is there. And
Cole Anthony, I'm not a big fan, but
yeah, I mean, Cole is, I'll say this for Cole. And I was not a big fan coming out of North Carolina. He has clearly worked his way into the point where he is a legitimate, like, good NBA player that can play minutes.
Yes, he's an NBA. I agree.
Like, we can question about whether or not Cole Anthony is going to be a starting point guard in the NBA for the next, 7 years or whatever. And I think those are real questions. I don't know that the jury is out there.
Yeah.
Or the jury is still out there.
Right.
But I respect a lot how Cole Anthony has gone about improving his game and has moved into a point where he is a legit NBA point guard now.
I agree with that. I should have clarified where I do think he is an NBA player. I hope Suggs improves in year 2. I want to see that. But if he doesn't, I don't love the guard situation there and otherwise.
Yeah, and Fultz is good too. Like
Yeah,
it's a weird
fine.
guard situation. It doesn't like fit together yet.
Yeah,
But they have assets to potentially make it fit together at some point.
right.
So
This isn't
yeah.
it. Well, Suggs
Okay.
might be it, but the other two no.
Last team, a team we've talked about a little bit on this podcast already, the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal extension. If Bradley Beal is willing to take a max contract, it seems like they're going to sign him to this extension.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's worth expounding beyond that. If it was me, I would probably be trying to restart, but this is not the direction they are going to go.
Nope.
And good for them, right? And by the way, it's not going to be extension. Bradley Beal, it seems like, is opting out of this deal per reporting from Mike Scotto yesterday, and will sign. All indications are, this does not come from reporting, but all indications are that, based on everything coming out of Washington, is that he will sign this, big contract.
Yep. And I believe, I just want to go on record, I don't think Bradley Beal will ever play anywhere else.
I believe it, honestly. Yeah, I do.
I think that that man has had more than a few reasons to leave. And the fact that he hasn't done it now, and I don't, if he likes being in one spot and likes being comfortable and likes being the guy, you live life once. Go ahead and do that. I don't blame him at all. I'm with him.
What do they do at 10? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, do you try and go get Malcolm Brogdon at 10? Do you try and go get some other player at number 10, using that pick as the asset? Maybe. I think that like Malcolm Brogdon Malcolm Brogdon and maybe like a smaller asset for number 10 is an interesting deal.
Yep. I would do that. I would re-sign Thomas Bryant. And like, Kuzma's a fine player. I am not the biggest Rui and Denny guy, but if you could have Beal, Brogdon, KCP, Kuzma, Thomas Bryant, like, I think that's about as good as it can get.
Well, and they have Kristaps too.
And of course. Holy shit, sorry.
Yeah.
And Porzingis. I think that's
and Daniel Gafford as well. I don't know if I bring back Bryant just because they have Gafford already.
I'm going to be honest with you. I completely forgot that they had Kristaps Porzingis, so I want to apologize to everybody listening.
But like, I
haven't thought about the Wizards in a while.
Yeah, it's Brogdon, it's Beal, it's KCP, it's Kuzma, it's Kispert, who I thought closed the year over his last 30 games really well.
Yep.
They have then Denny and Rui. They have Kristaps and Daniel Gafford. That's great for the 7th or 8th seed.
And that's what it feels like the Wizards want to do. I don't think I would trade for Brogdon or somebody else just simply because I don't think the high upside swing is there. If Shaedon Sharpe is there at 10, I would do it, because I think they do need to have at some point, and they've slowly put like an eye on the future. Like, they've kept around Denny, they kept around Rui. I would go Sharpe at 10. Otherwise, I don't think the high upside swing is there likely will be there at 10 in this draft. Maybe you could talk yourself into a Jalen Duren if Porzingis breaks down and you just want to have somebody there in that position. But I mean, we know what the Wizards' goal is every year. They want to make the playoffs. So
yeah, I'm not totally sure what to do with them, to be honest.
There's nothing to do. Yeah, nothing to do. It is what it is. And listen, I'm always in the camp as a journalist. You set the tone at the start of the year. You tell us what your goals are. If you want to make the playoffs, that's what we hold you to. If you consider this a rebuild year, we won't get up in arms when you lose 18 games in a row. My thing with the Wizards, though, is every year they say they want to make the playoffs, and it's just it's either they barely get in or they don't get in. And you have a chance you have one of the few trade chips realistically in his prime that any team in the league would want. You don't get that guy that often to be able to start fresh on a rebuild. I don't know.
Well, like, the Kings would definitely move number 4 and other stuff for Bradley Beal. I think part of it is that they won't send Bradley Beal to the Kings just because, like, they want to take care of Brad on some level.
Yeah.
Look, it's hard. They just need to pick a lane. I think, if it's compete, go for it. And look, like a Brogdon, Beal, Kristaps, Gafford, KCP, Kuzma, Kispert, Denny, whatever Rui is, Core. Look, they're behind Boston. They're behind Philly. I don't know for sure that they're behind Toronto, like depending on how much of a leap Scotty makes next year. If Scotty makes a big leap, they're definitely behind Toronto, but like,
and what Porzingis you get.
Yeah. They're behind Milwaukee, probably behind Chicago. If Chicago makes a move, behind Miami still, I think, because you don't have Jimmy, like
probably in the Cleveland tier, but I like
Cleveland, it's like 5, 6, 7 more, at some point. Right. And that's okay. And the problem is that both Kristaps and Brogdon have a tendency to miss 20 games. So you're in a problem spot there. So like, it's hard. They're hard. I would prefer that they go all in this way if they're going to retain Brad, but I just don't know what the upside of going all in is, I guess.
So I guess the last thing, and does Rui, Denny, and 10 get you anything good if we're going to keep on the be competitive path? I don't think
7, 8, something like that. Move up a couple spots.
Like, who's the best player that can get you? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm trying to.
Yeah, I don't know. No, like I mean, honestly, like I think Brogdon at 10 is like maybe it's like.
I agree.
Because they also have to move salary like ballast in a deal like this as well. And that gets complicated. So I'm, like, do you have to move like Kuzma, who actually has positive value now?
Yeah.
Like Kyle Kuzma is a valuable player in the NBA. And they don't really have like great salary ballast outside of like KCP and Kuzma. So like I guess it's KCP and something else for Brogdon. So you wouldn't have KCP in like the lineup arrangements that I'm making, but you retain Kuzma. I don't know. I guess it'd probably be KCP. It'd probably be like Rui and 10 for Brogdon, and like maybe you get Batadze back. Maybe you get, something. You get something else of small value back, I think, is where I'm at on it.
Can I pitch you one more and we can go on this? Can I pitch you one more Kings trade?
Yes. Let's just go nuts with Kings trades.
The Wizards send 10. I haven't looked. I need to look at the thing to make sure the money. 4 and Harrison Barnes go to Washington. 10 Kuzma, KCP, and if they want Kispert, they can take Kispert.
No.
To go get Jaden Ivey.
You're giving up the 2 best assets in that deal if you're the Kings, I think.
I'm with you. I've just been trying to figure out ways for the Wizards to get Jaden Ivey, and I think that says the fact that we can't figure out a way for them to jump to 4, and we can't figure out a way for them to add.
Well, the way for them to jump to 4 is
without giving up Beal.
Yeah, it's like Kuzma, it's Kuzma, Kispert, 10, Denny and like a future first or 2. They're going to have to break the bank into their future firsts, I think, to be able to do that.
So I was tossing that exact trade around with somebody, but is that enough for the Kings in their go for the playoffs mode?
No, honestly, I don't think it is.
Yeah, so
that's where I'm at. Like,
I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I don't know. This isn't great.
Sorry,
James.
Wizards,
yeah, I think that's why it's why like it almost just makes sense. Like, hey, like, Malcolm Brogdon, like, at least you have something there for 10 that you can do. Yeah. Okay. James, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
James Edwards the third. I cover the Pistons for The Athletic. I'm on Twitter at JL Edwards III. Yeah, there's a story up now about why and how the Jerami Grant trade went down. I will be in New York probably by the time you hear this. I will be on my way for the draft. And yeah, so draft's coming up. Summer League should be fun. Free agency. I'll be busy. So if you're a Pistons fan or you just want to call me an idiot because you heard me talk on this pod and say stupid things, you can follow me at The Athletic and jump in the comment section. Sam, thank you so much. The guide was phenomenal. You're the best at what you do. Yes, you're the man.
Go follow James's work over at The Athletic. The draft guide is out. Go read, subscribe, rate, review, all that shit. Comment on it. Do whatever you need to do. Tomorrow, or I guess today, potentially, on Thursday night, Matt Penny and I, with a guest or two maybe that might come through, we'll talk about the 2022 NBA draft live as it's happening. That podcast will get posted to the feed as soon as it's done, as soon as the draft is over. Penny and I will then go into recording a post-draft look ahead or look back that we will release on Friday. So this is a great week. This is a 4-podcast week. You're going to get a lot of fun stuff here moving forward. Here's the thing, though. Until next time, we'll talk soon.